Good Wednesday morning, everyone. How's it going? And this is where we would usually start a little conversation about Russell Wilson. This is the part of the week where I usually start discussing how he played in the most recent game and how the new Shane Waldron offense is altering the way in which he's playing football. So, yeah, we're not going to do that this week. We can't. There's nothing to talk about. Wilson is on the bench. Wilson is nursing his finger injury. Hopefully he'll be back sooner rather than later because, well, simply if for no other reason than that it's more fun to watch this team play with Wilson than Geno Smith. So for now, though, there's nothing really to talk about when it comes to the Wilson Wednesday, and I was thinking about how I could fill the void. And I contemplated the idea of just doing the same thing for Geno Smith, but that's not really informative and educational and relevant to this team right now. Like, who cares? Really, who cares if Geno Smith is playing well? Who cares how Geno Smith is playing? It doesn't really affect the future of this team. It probably won't have any effect on this team at all once Wilson comes back. So I just don't think that's useful. Thought about trying to do Waldron Wednesday, where I just evaluated Shane Waldron independently of the quarterback. That's going to be kind of hard to do as well because, I mean, a lot of people, and I can see why they thought this, but a lot of people thought that in that Sunday night game, Carroll kind of took over the offense at halftime, and Waldron had very little to do with anything that we did once we started running the ball 70% of the time or whatever it was in the second half. So that's kind of hard to do right now, and it's honestly not really fair when he doesn't even have his quarterback. So I don't think that's really what I can use this time best for. So I'm just going to kind of use this video to talk about something that has kind of occurred to me in recent days, and I just want to talk about something that I'm not the first person to think of this. I'm pretty sure. I'm sure there are other people out there who have made this correlation, but I want to talk about something with this team. So, people in the Seahawks fan base right now, some of them, not a lot of them, but some of them blame our struggles on Wilson's contract. They blame they think the reason why we're not having the ultimate success, the reason why we're not going to the Super Bowl, the reason why we're not winning the division every year is because Wilson's taking too much money and he needs to take less money. And they bandy out these stats like, oh, no quarterback taking more than 13% of the team's salary cap has ever won a Super Bowl, and Wilson's taking 17% or whatever it is, something like that. And there may be some valid talking points in there, but I don't understand why, with all the other obvious issues with this team right now, some of which do revolve around money, would anybody choose to single out the best player on this team? Yes, he is the highest paid player on this team. Yes, he takes a huge percentage of the cap. But I don't understand why you would get mad at the guy who's actually playing like he deserves to be our highest paid player. Do I wish he would take a little less money? I guess. But that is not the reason why this team is not having success right now. That is not the reason why we haven't played in an NFC title game in 8 years now? 7-8 years. So let's talk about a couple of players who should probably be taken to task for being, I don't want to say greedy because it's not greedy, but let's talk about a couple of players in this video who made decisions motivated by money and now are possibly not playing as well as we need them to because of those decisions. So let me first ask a question, and I already know what my answer is, and I think I know what a lot of people's answers will be, but maybe you'll have a different one. The Seahawks are obviously very disappointing so far this year, but which player on both sides of the ball do you think is the most disappointing? If you had to pick one player on offense and one player on defense, who is the most disappointing player on this team, and maybe you could say the catalyst for the reason why the team in general is disappointing right now, who would you pick? On offense, I think it's pretty clearly Duane Brown. To me, he's the guy on this offense who I expected a lot from, and I'm not getting very much from. And on defense, there are a couple of guys, but I'm going with Jamal Adams. He was supposed to be the best player on this defense, the superstar, the generational player, and he barely looks like he deserves to start sometimes. So, what did these two players do this offseason? What do they have in common? And I didn't think too much of this when they were doing it. I have to admit, I didn't see this as a huge red flag for this season as they were doing it. But now that we're here, now that we're looking at these guys, let's start with Duane Brown. So he's old, but it's not like he's 42. It's not like he's even 39. He's 36. That's not an age where you would be expecting somebody to just completely fall off a cliff. That's an age where maybe you would expect them to take a step back, but maybe not even that. We see offensive tackles play well into their late 30s sometimes. So Duane Brown, through 6 games, has allowed 4 sacks so far this season. And last year he played in every game and gave up 2, just to give you guys a comparison there. Now, to be clear, and in the interest of full transparency, I will say PFF doesn't think he's playing too poorly. They actually have him graded at about 68, which is not bad. Of course, it is a huge step down from 2020 when he had a grade of 87.3, and I think it's pretty obvious that he's taken a step back no matter how you slice it, a big one. He's, to me, pretty clearly 3 tiers below where he was last year as an offensive tackle. And I'm looking back at the offseason where he had his soft holdout, where he couldn't actually hold out, so he held in, where he actually went to the VMAC and showed up for practice, but then didn't practice because he wanted more money. And now I'm watching him play. Is it possible that Duane Brown's poor performance so far this season has something to do with his decision to not take part in training camp? Now, not taking part in preseason, that's understandable for a player of his age. I didn't want him to play in the preseason. I didn't want him to overwork himself before the real game started. But maybe training camp provided an opportunity for him to get ready for football that he needed. And the fact that he decided to not take that opportunity in favor of holding in for more money. And I don't want to call it greed, because he has every right to ask for more money, just like we have every right to decide to not give it to him, which we did. We didn't. But was this decision, which was motivated by money, even if it's not greedy, it was motivated by money, is that causing him to have a significant drop-off in performance so far this season? Can we trace Duane Brown's downfall to him deciding to not take part in training camp, basically? And Jamal Adams, same thing. Can we trace Jamal Adams playing mediocre at best football? PFF has him graded right now at about a 57, which, that's probably about right, honestly. And last year, PFF didn't love him either, but at least last year he was getting into the backfield and making plays. At least he was flipping games with some of the big negative plays he produced. At least you saw him flying around there with a lot of energy. This year, you're not seeing that as much, and he's not making any plays. And when Jamal Adams held out for his contract extension, again, I want to stress, he has every right to do that. That's not greedy. That's just him trying to secure the bag while the bag can be secured, which, as somebody like a Jamal Adams, this might be your one chance to get a monster contract. You gotta go for it. And you gotta try to squeeze every dollar you can squeeze out of it. But was that decision to not participate in training camp? Because again, him not participating in preseason, I can take or leave that. Maybe you can argue that because he's young, he should probably still be playing some snaps in preseason, but that's whatever. But Forget preseason. Was it a mistake for him to take training camp off? Because at the end of the day, he did get paid. And now he's out there not really producing for us. And if there's a correlation there, that's not okay. And we know that the NFL cracked down on holdouts, which is why players started doing this hold in stuff where they show up to camp but then don't do anything. It makes you wonder if maybe the NFL kind of needs to go another level beyond to see to it that players can't circumvent the holdout rules by doing this holding crap, because from where I sit, we're kind of in the same position. And it could just be a thing where Duane Brown is old and fell off a cliff because of age and the knee. It could be with Jamal Adams, we just have no idea how to use him. Maybe I don't think it's just Jamal Adams is just bad. You can't convince me that Jamal Adams just forgot how to play football after making All-Pro with Adam Gase and Greg Williams. Like that doesn't make any sense to me. That pretty much doesn't happen. It doesn't make any sense to me that Jamal Adams could make All-Pro on a bad Jets team and then 2 years later go, oh, I don't remember how to play football, or I don't feel like playing football anymore. No. It's possible that the explanations are just that simple, but could at least part of this be traced back to their decision to skip training camp? Was there something in training camp that they needed that they didn't get because of their little hold-in? And if that is true, and we'll never know because there's no way to know for sure what's causing players to play poorly sometimes, that's really not okay on their parts. Wanting to get paid is one thing, but if you need to do certain things in the offseason to get prepared to play well when the actual games start, you got to do it. That's part of being on a football team. That's part of the experience of being a professional football player. So let me know what you guys think down below. I don't know if this is the case or not. There's no way to. And again, it's possible the explanation is as simple as age and bad fit. So I'm just trying to kind of explain, kind of justify in my head why I'm seeing some of the things that I'm seeing from these two guys in particular. So what do you guys think? Do you think there was a connection there? Do you think that the reason why these guys aren't performing is because they didn't do anything in camp? If that's the case, will they start to play better later in the season maybe? Let me know what you got. See you guys later. Go Hawks.